Airways flight from New York to Charlotte was in the Hudson River, New York City, and amazingly, all passengers.
Le 15 janvier 2009, l'incroyable se produit. Un pilote a réussi à amérir l'avion qu'il pilotait sur la rivière Hudson à New York. Il sauve donc les 150 passagers qui étaient à bord et Eric Stevenson était l'un d'entre eux. Voici son histoire.
So the day started a little bit snowy. I was in New York for a conference, and it was the end of the conference, and I was going then to visit a friend who lives in Charlottesville in Virginia. When I got to the airport, I saw that the plane was canceled, and so they rebooked me on another flight, and that turned out to be the Hudson flight. So I wasn't even supposed to be on that flight. And so I boarded the flight. It seemed like everything was normal, but then of course everything wasn't normal after that. So the flight I was on, we were going to Charlotte, North Carolina, and then I was going to make a connection. And so we took off at about 3 p.m. in the afternoon and did a takeoff quite normal from LaGuardia Airport going to the north. And so because Charlotte is in the south of the US, the plane had to make a turn. And so we made our initial ascent. We were at about 1,000 meters or 3,000 feet. And that's when the plane ran into this very large group of Canadian geese that were migrating south. And at the time, I was looking out the window and I was seated on the right side of the plane, very close to the wing and the exits. And I remember seeing this kind of like a gray cloud. And I just thought that was really strange, but it was really fast, this gray cloud. And all of a sudden, the plane seemed to be a bit jittery. And what happened then, immediately there was the smell of burned chicken. And that's because the birds went into the engine, and the engines are the source of the fresh air for the plane. So immediately this sense of burned chicken came into the aircraft. So I thought, well, the engines are designed for that. And I turned to the passenger next to me and I said, I think we just hit a bird. So the plane continued to feel a bit hesitant. It wasn't really moving forward, but I had the impression the engines were on. The people behind me were getting really kind of upset because they saw fire coming out from the back of the engine, because they could see the engine and they saw the flames. So we continued to kind of proceed. I think we were heading more west, and then we started to turn. And that's when the pilot, Sully, the Captain Sullenberger, came on the intercom, and he only said 7 words. And that's all he said in the whole flight. He said, "This is the captain, brace for impact." It was very clear for the cabin crew, and that means the plane is going to crash, and prepare the plane for that. For the passengers, it's very kind of a vague thing. What does brace for impact mean? Is this going to be like a rough landing? I thought it was, because he had turned the plane and seemed like we were going to straight south to Newark Airport. And so I thought it meant that we were just going to have a rough landing and we were heading towards Newark. I was a bit too optimistic. And so we continued, and the planes kept getting lower and lower and lower, and I knew we were going down the Hudson. We finally reached a point maybe about 15 seconds before impact, and I said, there's no way we're going to get to Newark, which was still miles and miles away, and I thought, we're going to crash. So that really, I have to say, is the most incredible moment of my life, because it was just the last few seconds of feeling like I was alive and thinking that, okay, counting down, my life ends in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, because we saw we're getting closer and closer to the water. And I'm just thinking, oh, just don't make this too painful. We'll crash, and I hope it's not going to be violent. I mean, violent enough that we all suffer. And so it's the deepest, darkest place that you could ever imagine, that you're just thinking, this is the end of my life. This is game over, and it just happened so fast like this.
It miles per hour.
Then the plane hit the water, and for me it was like a plane, or when you go water skiing. And the boat, when you go water skiing, it slams into the water, and it's not violent, but it's hard, like bam. And that's what it felt like on the plane. We hit the water and boom. And I was thinking the plane was going to break apart. But within 1 second, I saw, no, the plane isn't breaking apart, and we were settling into the river. And we weren't sinking, but water was starting to come in already. I could see that, but we weren't immediately sinking. And all of a sudden, it was like this big vortex for me. It was as if I just got my life back. Like, wow, this realization. I thought just seconds earlier that was the end of my life. And now all of a sudden I had this greatest gift. I got my life back again. It's like going from the darkest place you could ever imagine, and suddenly it's euphoria. And it's just this, the way I describe it, it's like a vortex. And whoa, I got my life back again. So within seconds, the doors came off of the plane, because people, just in front of me was the exit row. And so the passengers immediately knew what to do, and they took the doors off, and people started streaming out. I didn't really sense it was panic, and I didn't really hear anyone yelling, but people were moving very quickly. I went into this kind of a Zen mode in that I thought, I just got my life back, and we're not gonna die today. And I knew I was just behind the exit, so I just waited in my seat. And I said, if anyone else is anxious, I'll let them get out. And so almost the plane really within 30 seconds really quickly evacuated, and people were on the wings and into rafts, and it happened quite fast. And so finally the plane was almost empty, and I thought, okay, now I'll go out to the wing. And so I just climbed over the seat. I was just behind the door, and I went out onto the wing. As you look forward in the plane, it would be the wing on the right. And it was really crowded. When you see the photos of the plane, there were a lot of people standing on that wing. And that was the wing that started to go sinking more into the water. So I see people really standing into the water. And at that point, we were just waiting to get rescued by the ferry boats. So I was looking through the plane and seeing the other wing, and I thought, it seems like there's less people on the other side. So this is kind of the crazy things your mind does in a crisis situation. But I thought, okay, I'll do my small part. I'll move from one wing to the other. So I actually went back inside the plane. And at that point, the water was kind of like up to where my knees are. And it was cold, icy cold that day. The air temperature was maybe 0 degrees, in the water 0 degrees, and the air temperature was -15. It was just freezing January day. So I went through the plane and I went out onto the other wing, and that's where I eventually got picked up by a ferry boat. And I waited until the very end because I knew I would get rescued, and so I let other people go onto the ferry. So I was one of the very last 3 people that was on the plane, physically on the plane. We were on the wing. Well, that day remains one of the most pivotal days in my life, because as you would expect, going through a near-death plane crash disaster like that is such a rare event, and to survive it too. often you read about plane crashes and no one survives, and here we have this miracle, as it was called, because everyone survived. Some days I wake up and I just can't believe, was I really on that plane? I can't, it's a weird thing to think that I've survived a plane crash. And it's been a very positive thing in my life. One of the things that helps me every day, if I'm in a really stressful situation, or if there's just a lot of heavy conversation, or if I have a problem, I always look back and I say, you know, every day after that moment in the Hudson, every day after that is a gift. And so I can enjoy each day. I can take advantage of it. I can be less stressed. And sure, I have some stress, and sure, everyone has it. But you know, the little things I try to let go, and it's life, and I won't get upset because every day is a kind of a bonus.